Okay, so remember Justin Timberlake? Either he hasn't been in the news for a while, or I've been living under a rock. 8 years ago, Justin Timberlake was basically off the music radar as he took 5 years off of releasing any new music and went on to act in a bunch of big movies such as The Social Network, Bad Teacher, and Shrek. He was this guy. Did you know that? I did not know that. See? This is him promoting the Shrek movie. And did you also know that he was in Yogi Bear? See? Not sure if he was even Yogi Bear himself. Oh no, he was Boo Boo. Who's Boo Boo? See the sun? Yeah, it looks like it. I don't know, I haven't seen the movie. And after 5.5 years of no new music at all, he came back with a banger. He came back with Suit and Tie. Do you remember that? Suit and Tie. It became a huge hit. It had Jay-Z featured on it. It was a very, very smooth track. Classic. It pioneered a new sound for Justin, and you can tell that the production quality increased quite a lot. Then soon after, he released this song, Mirrors, which in my opinion is his best song that he's ever put out. It also had a really cool music video, as you can see here. Then the full album, the 2020 Experience, came out. It was released through RCA and it gained a lot of traction, peaking at number 1 on a bunch of Billboard charts, including the Billboard Top 200. It's certified platinum in the UK and 3 times platinum in the US. Then, out of nowhere, just one day after the album was released, Questlove from The Roots revealed that Justin Timberlake had a second part to this album, a sequel, a part 2, and that it was gonna come later that year. And this was 2013. And lo and behold, a second part was released. I think it was called Part 2 of 2, and it had a similar album cover. I think it was this. Or maybe it was this, I'm not sure, one of these. And finally, the album was complete with 20 songs and a bunch of bonus tracks. This was an extremely fruitful period for Justin's career as the songs were charting, and he went on tour with Jay-Z. He also went touring solo to promote this album solely. The tour was called the 2020 Experience Tour, and it ran throughout 2014 and even had a Netflix movie made for it, which I highly recommend because it is probably one of the best concert films I've ever seen. But after that, he went silent again until 2018, almost 4.5 years since releasing his last album. Okay, wait, that's not true. He was featured on Michael Jackson's Love Never Felt So Good in the meantime, which became really popular, and also starred in the movie Trolls. And with this movie, he released his most successful song to date, Can't Stop the Feeling. But once that era came to an end, he went back to the buzz cut and came back with new music to share for his upcoming album, Man of the Woods. And I'm not gonna lie, this album had quite an odd album rollout. That's just my opinion. If you disagree, that's okay. The lead single off this album was called Filthy, which was a super electronic, groovy, funky track that had an intro that would make you think that it was going to be a rock song, which was a little confusing. And I also want to mention this. The music video was set in none other than Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, which is the city that I'm from. I did not see that coming when this first came out. Yeah, that was very weird to experience because, you know, we're not that big on the global stage. So yeah, not gonna lie, I was never a big fan of this song. Like, it had a cool concept for a music video, but it wasn't the most powerful lead single that he could have put out for the album, if I'm gonna be honest. That could easily be because it wasn't my style of music to begin with, but I still think it wasn't hard-hitting enough. But either way, I wasn't too worried because the song wasn't that bad, and the 2020 Experience album had a lot of bangers, so I had no doubt that this album would be the same. Maybe the lead single was just a miss. But then, the second single, Supplies, came out. And while that wasn't bad either, it felt like he was trying a little too hard to fuse two incompatible styles of music together. However, the performance that he did on Jimmy Fallon of that song was pretty good. Yeah, this was pretty cool. This was actually performed on Super Bowl night, right after the Super Bowl, which is crazy. But yeah, that was pretty cool. That was a cool performance. And yeah, but then came the third single, Say Something. Ooh, that song is good. That song is really good. Say Something is the second best song he's probably ever put out in my opinion, after Mirrors. It has such a feel-good feel, if that makes sense. And the live music video for it sounded even better than the original. That's just the honest truth. Because did you know that the music video is actually a live performance of the song? It's not the actual studio recording, dubbed over it. And it was filmed in one take, which is crazy. Say Something is one of those songs that can fit easily into a movie to create a mood. You know what I mean? Like into a soundtrack. And this song ended up being the album's most popular song. And it honestly should have been the main single, the lead single. So the album comes out, right? And it ends up being filled with, again, this is my opinion, a bunch of mediocre songs. Like Sauce was kind of meh, Wave was Hard Stuff, Young Man. Man of the Woods, the title track itself was also meh. Man of the Woods was, yeah, I don't know. You'll have to listen to it yourself. When this album came out, it even became a meme that Justin Timberlake made a country album. Because a lot of the songs on the album featured instruments associated with country music, with a heavy load of acoustic guitar throughout. This is why I say the rollout was weird, because when Filthy first came out, you'd think that that style of music would be at least a bit more represented throughout the rest of the record. But really, Filthy was such a outlier track. I don't know how to explain it. It's so different from the rest that it shouldn't have been the first single because it didn't represent the rest of the album. You get my flow? But personally, my favorites of the album were, Say Something, Montana was pretty good, and Morning Light featuring Alicia Keys. And there are also some other good ones, such as Breeze Off the Pond was good, Midnight Summer Jam was pretty groovy. But it didn't really explore different sounds as much as the 2020 experience did. So yeah, other than the few favorites I mentioned, there are a lot of skippable songs, and it definitely was not my favorite album of his. Even Justin himself revealed that Man of the Woods was one of his least favorite albums to make. But all this aside, Justin was booked for the Super Bowl halftime performance in 2018. That's a huge deal. And he was there to obviously, promote his album that just came out. But see, what ended up happening was that he just reran a lot of his old songs instead, with very little attention given to any of his new music, which didn't make any sense to me. He literally only spent like a bit more than a minute performing Filthy and didn't include any of the other songs from his upcoming album. He literally only spent a minute of his performance performing any song from his new album, and of all songs, he chose to perform Filthy, which, Say Something would have been the better option. That's literally the only song of the new album he was trying to promote that he included in the set list. So I'm not quite sure how well it did in promoting his new album, but at least he made Selfie Kid famous. Remember this guy? Selfie Kid. This was a moment. I wonder where he is now. Okay, so where does that leave us? What happened to Justin Timberlake? Well, from that point, he went on to tour the album Man of the Woods on the Man of the Woods tour. See, this is him doing the shoot on tour. It had a beautiful stage with a bunch of projectors. I wish I could have seen this in person. This is him performing Mirrors. But what was weird is that as cool as the stage looked, he had trees blocking the stage. Isn't that weird? Like, these are fixed, fixtures. These don't move away after a song or two. They're stuck there the entire performance. So imagine having a bad spot on the floor. Yeah, but aside from that, the stage is beautiful. And after that, he even starred in Trolls World Tour. Trolls 2, Trolls World Tour. That's what I meant to say. Which by default also made him the producer of the soundtrack. I mean, when Can't Stop the Feeling ends up being that popular, of course the studio will want you to produce, a bigger money printer. A couple of pretty good songs came out of the soundtrack. Like The Other Side featuring SZA was really good. And Don't Slack featuring Anderson .Paak was also really good. Those are my two favorites of the soundtrack. And there are a couple other good songs that I like, such as It's All Love. I like that song. But yeah, it wasn't that bad. Especially for a movie soundtrack for kids. And he also did a Hot Ones episode in the beginning of COVID and got into some heat during the Free Britney movement. But other than that, he's been in the studio with Timbaland making new music. In a recent interview with I don't remember who, it may have been Zane Lowe. Basically, he mentioned that a body of work was starting to come together, which means that we might be getting a new album very soon. I hope. It's almost been 4 years since Man of the Woods came out, which is almost the end of his album cycle, so things are looking promising. Oh, and apparently the new music that he's been working on with Timbaland will feature a bunch of upcoming no-name producers that they found through Timbaland's new music Tinder for Music app, which is pretty cool. But with Justin Timberlake getting cancelled way more often these days, and right before filming, I just literally found out that he was getting cancelled for the Super Bowl incident with Janet Jackson in 2004 or something. Yeah, that's being brought up again. So with all this negative PR against him, we'll see whether he delays new music or whatnot. But either way, I'm excited for what's to come in terms of music, because whatever comes will probably be better than Man of the Woods. So yeah, that's what he's been up to.